Packed with intense action, the movie chronicles a band of immortal warriors who have been fighting for centuries. As we open on this riveting tale, four of these brave souls, Andy, Charlize Theron, Booker, Matthias Schoenaerts, Joe, Marwan Kenzari, and Nikki, Luca Marinelli, are seen strewn across the ground riddled in bullet wounds. Through her powerful voiceover, Andy expresses how weary she is from all that combat. Earlier, Andy met with Booker in Morocco, a union joined by Joe and Nikki, as immortal assassins whose mission is to remain concealed while fulfilling their assignments. They are almost exposed when a group of ladies snap a picture of Andy and post it on the web. In order to keep up their secrecy, he takes steps covertly to remove the photo, an example of how far they go to stay undercover. When a former CIA agent named James Copley, Chiwetel Ejiofor, entrusts the immortal warriors with capturing an aggressive local militia responsible for terrifying kidnappings and violence, they accept without hesitation. Unbeknownst to them, however, upon touching down in South Sudan, their presence is met with hostility as their adversaries open fire on sight. But these resilient fighters are equipped not only with indomitable strength, but also miraculous healing capabilities that enable them to rapidly recover from bullet wounds. Andy utilizes her axe masterfully in the battle against the militia, a symbol of courage and justice prevailing even when faced with insurmountable odds. After Andy breaks the camera, the four make their getaway and decide to stick together to find Copley. A group of American Marines enters a camp in Afghanistan in order to free ladies who are being held hostage by a terrorist leader. One of the women points out the target as Niall Freeman. Kiki Lane leads the team in. Niall and her companions approach the target and fire. He gets a knife and slices her throat as she tries to staunch the bleeding so she can bring him in alive. As Niall slips into unconsciousness, the fearsome quartet of assassins soon come to understand that there is someone else in the world similar to them, as they all see a hallowed image of Niall at this juncture. In their pursuit for answers, they set off on an unexpected journey seeking out clues regarding who or what could be responsible for such supposedly impossible healing powers. To everyone's astonishment, when Dizzy returns with the other Marines back inside the medical tent, after searching outside, Niall's neck wound had entirely healed. Upon journeying to London, Copley comes face to face with his employer Merrick, Harry Melling, who is eager to share how their company, Merrick Pharmaceuticals, plans on using the latest developments in technology to potentially rescue millions of lives. As soon as Copley displays him the assassin's footage from his mission's completion, enthusiasm fills Merrick. However, he needs tangible proof for any further progressions. After the event, Niall's teammates began to shun her. No matter how much she opposed it, they still informed her that she would be taken for additional testing in Germany. Just as Niall was about to get abducted, Andy sprung into action and took out all of the other troops before taking off with Niall. When she tried running away on their drive together, Andy stepped outside and pointed a gun at her head, a moment where reality finally hit home for Niall. This wasn't some dream from which she'd awaken unscathed. Real life had caught up with her. After arriving at an airbase, a pilot transports them to France. Andy wakes up to see that Niall has tied her arm to the aircraft and is attempting to compel her and the pilot to make a forced landing while holding them both at gunpoint. The pilot is shot by Andy, who then commands Niall to set her free so she may take control of the aircraft. However, the pilot was only pretending to be dead in order to escape capture. Niall is subdued by Andy, who then makes her comply with their purpose. Andy and Niall arrive at the hideout where they encounter other immortal warriors. Here, Niall is informed of their collective duties as well as each member's extraordinary abilities to manifest in different eras throughout history, something that has been witnessed and even experienced by them all. Puzzled about how or when one can pass away for good, Andy shares his experience with a fellow warrior who vanished centuries ago due to wounds that refused to heal. Niall reports to the boys that she had a dream in which a woman was screaming and flailing around inside of an iron casket when she suddenly woke up. Quinn, Van Veronica, the first of the immortals that Andy discovered, was the woman, according to Booker, who reveals that she was their former romantic partner. Before they were persecuted and mercilessly murdered by those who considered them to be monsters, Niall and Quinn made the perfect companions. Although Quinn had been cast into a deep sea with an iron coffin restraining her for 500 years, Niall could still feel all of her pain from afar. Soon after, some mercenaries employed by Merrick strike the hideout. Booker is knocked out by a grenade, and his injuries take considerable time to heal. Joe and Nikki are caught in this assault. Before retreating with Niall and Booker, Andy looks for several of these assailants before executing them. Her wounds have deteriorated her condition, but she hangs on long enough to make their escape possible. While attempting to separate Joe and Nikki, the mercenaries mock them. When one of them sarcastically asks Joe if Nikki is his boyfriend, he passionately defends Nikki as being much more than that. Before the thugs tear them apart, they kiss. Joe headbutts Merrick once he is brought to them. In retaliation, he repeatedly stabs Joe to attempt and demonstrate their immortality. While continuing to demand that the other immortals be located, Merrick has Joe and Nikki escorted to the lab. Andy, Niall, and Booker journey to an abandoned mine in search of some of their belongings. However, Andy is anxious about the possibility that they could be found out due to a shot fired at their hideout by one of the men. As they deliberate on how to move forward with their plan, Niall begins thinking back upon her family, specifically her mother and brother's suffering after losing her father in war, consequently becoming less eager to join Booker, as he mentions he has already seen all his children pass away. Andy seeks medical attention for her wound at a neighboring pharmacy. Niall later decides to abandon the mission and spend the remaining time with her family, and Andy lets her depart as they continue their work. Niall discovers a gun clip in the car's trunk, though, and realizes that Booker gave Andy an empty gun on purpose. In an attempt to capture Copley, Andy and Booker find him and approach him, but Booker shoots Andy in the back after disclosing their partnership with Copley. He claims that Merrick might have discovered a means to put a stop to their immortality so that they can pass away quietly, which would justify his betrayal. Then, Booker observes that Andy is not yet recovering as quickly as she did. She and Booker are taken by Merrick's men to join Joe and Nikki, with the intention of maybe killing them all if he finally makes a breakthrough. When Joe and Nikki learn of Booker's deceit, they too turn against him. Niall discovers Copley and compels him to join forces with her in order to free the others. After seeing Merrick's vile nature, however, Copley is thrilled to lend a helping hand. He had been collecting data on all of the Immortals' accomplishments and daring feats throughout history. Upon arriving at Merrick's headquarters, they immediately dispatch his soldiers before liberating the captives. Andy elects not to retreat, but instead chooses this moment as their opportunity for foiling Merrick once and for all. Merrick locates Andy and Niall after dispatching a further wave of mercenaries. He attacks. Andy rams her axe into his neck. Niall throws him out the window as he tries to shoot her, and they both land on a car. While Merrick is a lifeless, bloody mess, Niall recovers. The group then departs as a unit, and Andy's injuries ultimately mend. Copley devises a scheme for Niall to be fatally injured in action, leaving her family with the same anguish they felt after losing her father. In order to pay for his betrayal, Booker is banished by the rest of Immortals and is not allowed to return until 100 years have passed. Despite his deviousness, all agreed that as long as Copley can keep their existence hidden from prying eyes, it would be beneficial to continue working together with him. 6 months later, Booker returns to his Paris flat while intoxicated. Quinn, a visitor who was completely unanticipated, greets him. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification for more movie recaps.